Hi, everyone. Hi. We're going to start our program now. We have so many people in the room today, and, we are getting seated and just ready to have this great celebration of excellence. My name is Anna Wheatley, and I'm our marketing director. So I do want to welcome you to the Symposium 47. Woo! We'll start by recognizing our sponsors who help make these programs possible. With your help, the students we serve are better prepared to launch their careers. There's so many in the room here today. So thank you for your generosity. Please help me give a warm welcome to our dean, Bruce Pinkleton.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate that. This is the second time we've gathered to celebrate excellence that we see each day in Murrow College. So today we're going to acknowledge a lot of the great work taking place in Murrow, what I sometimes call the Murrow family. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I know people are still eating. Go ahead, just get your food. That's great. But it's group participation time, so I need you to pay attention, all right? So even if you have food in your hands, you need to pay attention. This is just like class. This is a test, okay? All right, so to begin this afternoon, we're going to recognize all attendees who are or were first-generation college students. So if you are the first person in your family to have a four-year degree, stand or raise your hand so we can recognize you. Everybody, come on up. There we go. All right. Okay, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Now, will all current scholarship recipients in Murrow College please stand or raise your hand so we can recognize you, current scholarship recipients? Awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to be getting up and down a lot here, folks, so just get ready, okay? All right. Will all current graduate students or anyone here who earned a graduate degree from Washington State University or the Murrow College, please stand or wave your hand so we can recognize you. Awesome. Smart people. All right. Now, we have tremendous applied learning opportunities in Murrow College. It's really one of the things that sets us apart from our peers. To demonstrate how involved students are in industry-related activities inside and outside of the classroom, I want students involved in any of the current organizations to stand or raise your hand. If I've called you and you stand, just stay standing. My goal here is to have almost everyone standing one way or the other, okay? So if you're already standing and I call another organization you're involved in, you can just begin waving your hand, all right? And we'll hold our applause until the end unless we just can't take it, in which case we'll just applaud the whole time. If you can do it, I can do it. All right, you ready? Okay, so listen up. Here we go. Cable A Productions, stand to raise your hand. Stay standing. All right, awesome. All right. Daily Evergreen, stand to raise your hand. Stay standing. There we go. Thank you. KUGR, KZUU, KJEM, Northwest Public Broadcasting, stand to raise your hand. All right, stay standing. The Rural Plunge, if you participated in the Rural Plunge, stand to raise your hand. Very good, okay? Religions Reporting Program, if you participated in our religions, stand to raise your hand. Okay, awesome. The Murrow News Service, you've been in the Murrow News Service, please stand to raise your hand. Outstanding. The Association for Women in Communications, Roberta Kelly, I got that right. Please stand and raise your hand. All right, very good. The J. Rocky chapter of the Public Relations Student Society of America, you're participating, stand to raise your hand. Awesome, okay. The National Student Advertising Competition, stand to raise your hand. Very good, another group, okay. Our newest organization is Crimson Creative. If you're part of Crimson Creative, stand to raise your hand. That's our student-run firm. Awesome, okay, now for everybody else in here, if you ever participated in any of these organizations, when you were a student and you're now an adult, please stand to raise your hand. All right, the whole room, pretty much, right? There we go. Okay, you can all be seated now. Thank you so much. You passed that test. All right. Okay, in addition to all the organizations we've talked about, we have students who learn as they travel our nation and the globe. I have to be honest with you. When I was in school and it was spring break, we went to work. These kids, we send them all over the place. So we just had students return from Nairobi, Kenya, New York City, and Arizona to cover Major League Baseball spring training. Wouldn't that be a great gig? All right, if you participated in any of our Murrow expeditions, stand or raise your hand for us. All right. Okay, very good. And we have a final group of students I'd like to recognize. This is a group that's really important to the success of the Murrow Symposium. So will our student ambassadors and any other students working at the Murrow Symposium who've helped bring this event together, please stand or raise your hand for us. Let's give them a big round of applause. Okay, thank you so much. All right, I've received tremendous support from members of the Murrow College Professional Advisory Board. This is a group of outstanding professionals. They support me, they mentor our students, they support the work of the college and students financially in many cases. They spread the word about the great work that we're doing in Murrow College. Will past and present members of the Murrow Professional Advisory Board please stand or raise your hands so we can recognize you? There we go, come on. Terrific. Thank you for all you do. Okay, now, we had a surprise award earlier this morning, okay? Eric Johnson received the highest honor given to WSU alumni by the Alumni Association. It's the Alumni Achievement Award for Outstanding Contributions to WSU. Eric, where are you at? Will you stand to raise your hand? There he is, right back there, okay. I have to tell you, this is the truth. I was standing right next to Eric when we presented the award, and I think he was clenching his jaw, just trying to keep his emotions under control. There was quite impressive, so pretty excited about that, Eric. Congratulations to you, something you've earned. All right. Okay, as we look to other forms of excellence in Murrow College, we celebrate the more than 100-year history of Northwest Public Broadcasting. From its earliest days as KWSC, NWPB brings reporting, fine arts programming, National Public Radio, and other public service broadcasting services to 80% of the state of Washington. That's pretty darn impressive, 80% of the state of Washington. If you've participated in the history of what we now call Northwest Public Broadcasting in any way, please stand or raise your hand so we can recognize you. All right, awesome. All right, I'm going to give a special shout out. This is completely off script for those of you pulling your hair out with the teleprompter. We learned about a month ago that Matt Kawamura is leaving the Murrow College. Matt's been an outstanding employee of Murrow College. He's a broadcast engineer for us. If he's great with internet fixes and things like that. If it breaks, Matt can fix it. Matt, you're probably behind the black curtain over there. Is that right? You over there? There he is. Okay, there he is. Come on, you have to step out, Matt. Come on. There we go. All right. Matt has a fantastic professional opportunity with Professional Golfing Association. We're really sorry to see him go, but excited for him and his future. All right. This has been truly inspiring, everyone, so thank you so much for that celebration of excellence. And we're going to continue now with our Hall of Achievement inductees. We have more than 13,000 graduates of the Murrow College, and a very small percentage of them are admitted into the Murrow College Hall of Achievement. Therefore, induction in the Hall of Achievement is a rare and meaningful event. I will tell you, I'm not sure that my undergraduate institution even knows I'm alive, and that's okay. For these folks that we've brought in today, these are consummate professionals, people who really have earned a true distinction. So we're excited for them. Mary Grace Roski, please join me and share with us a little bit about induction into the Murrow College Hall of Achievement.
Thank you, Bruce. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Grace Roski, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Murrow Professional Advisory Board. And each year, we honor exceptional graduates of what is now the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication. After seeking and researching our nominees, the HOA inductees are recommended to the Dean by a group of Professional Advisory Board members. Nominees are individuals who have made significant contributions to their professional, business, or academic achievement. They've demonstrated community engagement, responsibility, and they've shown support for Washington State University and/or the Edward R. Murrow College of Communications. These are often individuals who are active in mentoring and coaching young professionals, and typically they have received honors and awards within their own profession for their career achievements. The 2023 class of inductees is particularly inspiring, and I'd like to welcome to the stage beloved former Murrow College professor and the mayor of Pullman, Glenn Johnson. And he will introduce our first two inductees. And for the inductees, please stay for a few minutes after the ceremony so we can get some photographs. Thank you.
I pointed out that it was very nice to hear beloved, especially when you're a politician. And the other thing is, on behalf of the Tourism Bureau of the City of Pullman, I do want to tell you that this is spring. And if you don't believe me, we have some virtual photographs that we can show you a little bit later on. My son went to the Tulip Festival over at Mount Vernon this weekend, and he said it's a daffodil festival. It's not tulips at all. They haven't come up yet. Well, you imagine what a privilege it is today to be able to introduce two of my former students here. And when you see the video, first of all, of Cindy Brunson, there'll be a lot of things that you probably won't see in that video. You'll see about all of her accomplishments and all the great things that she has done on the air and also for the Murrow College. But it's unfortunate today that we have so many in our society that they just take a look at somebody who's famous and they think, they had a lucky break, good looks, a lot of money, whatever else. And they don't see the hard work and all the dedication that was involved in getting to where they are today. We have some that actually just want to put in the minimums to get their degree. I used to tell my students, if you want to put in the minimums, you might as well just go for Mr. Average. Because that's all you're going to be, is just average. You want to be better than that. So when you watch the video, I doubt you'll see that Cindy took a semester off, maybe a semester off or two, during her time here at WSU. And she actually flew for Delta Airlines as a flight attendant. Maybe you saw a little bit of that today when she said there are lines on both sides. See, some of that came back. And then later she could, but no, again, she flew for Delta Airlines. And Delta Airlines recognized all that talent and actually had her fly charter flights with the professional teams and football and baseball and hockey, all those. So she could gain some insights later on in her career, perhaps at SportsCenter, or to share a few of those insights with her professor when she came back to school. Like Glenn, which professional team has the biggest egos? Or which one's the friendliest, the nicest? Okay, the egos is baseball. They always have these gold chains around. They measure their worth by how much gold they have. And then the nicest, hockey. They mostly came from Canada. They're very polite, so those are things we learned. Also, to get a phone call from Cindy to say, you still teaching TV news? I said, yep, I'm coming back. I said, great to hear. However, I still need to earn some money. So can we work out a schedule on the air that has me off on Friday so I can fly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? I'll be back in your class on Monday. I said, sure, we'll work out any kind of schedule to get you back here. And we did. And I think there was only one or two times that she ever missed a Monday class. One, I found out that if you happen to hit a flight attendant, that's a federal offense. And something like that happened to her, and so she had to spend a Monday in Salt Lake doing a deposition for the federal authorities. And I think there was another snowstorm that maybe happened along the way. So she came back, obviously did fantastic in her classes, went on an internship at KHQ Channel 6, and then they hired her on to do weather. I mean, here's this sports talent doing weather. And she says, they don't even give me a break. I want to do some sports. I said, well, they got the B tournament coming up. Maybe they'll need some extra help. You can do the B tournament. No, they kept her doing weather. But then she went off to Portland TV, a major market, and somebody at KHQ said, you're not going to amount to anything. And I won't say who that person is. I will protect their identity. But every time I saw that person, I said, hey, did you see Cindy on SportsCenter last night? Great job. It was a lot of fun to do that, let me tell you that. So anyway, Cindy Brunson is now going to be honored, first of all, with a video and also with this Hall of Achievement. And again, a lot of hard work went into that. And I'm very, very proud of her.
For the first time in 30 years. It's been a long journey to get back into the big dance, and we finally shattered that glass ceiling. I'm Cindy Brunson, and we are so very glad to have you along the way. 2 seconds on the clock. Mira for the win! She got it! Looking Walker for 3, and she's got 1,000 points career, ladies and gentlemen. Charlize Walker, hello! I have always appreciated the female athletes that have inspired me. You know, I grew up a huge Sheryl Swoopes fan, and now I get to work with her in Athletes Unlimited, talking about pro women's basketball in a league designed specifically for women's sports. It's just amazing how things come full circle. My dad didn't have any boys, so I gravitated toward hanging out with him and his buddies in the rec room, watching footballs on Sunday, college football on Saturday, and that's when I first heard Keith Jackson's voice. And then one day, as I was getting a little bit older, I saw Robin Roberts on TV, and she looked like me, and she was talking about sports. And I thought, I want to do that. That's all I want to do. So I started investigating on how to make that happen. Found out that USC had a really good school, ASU, and Washington State produced Keith Jackson. And I thought, I can stay in the state, get as far away from my parents as I can without leaving the state. So that's why I landed on Washington State. And it was literally the best choice I ever made. When I was at K2, an ABC affiliate in Portland, it was a dream scenario because they literally created a position for me, weekend morning anchor, because more people were tuning in on weekend mornings to start their day. And I talked my news director into letting me do the sports myself. And because of that, I was able to create more tape to give to my agent to send to ESPN. I wanted to go network, and that's the only reason I would have left Portland. And a year to the day that my out kicked in my contract, ESPN called my agent. The culture was intense. It was intoxicating. It was everything I thought it would be and more. And it was the biggest challenge I have ever faced in my life because I was on an island as a woman. There just weren't that many of us in that building doing that job. And we were uniforms. There were so many men used to having and holding meetings that were male-centric and male fan-driven. And it's like, hello, the sports world is bigger. So that was the biggest kind of punch in the face. I didn't know what I was doing at the time because I was just trying to survive, honestly. I just wanted to do a good job and to get those contract renewals and to get more appearances on SportsCenter and be tapped to be a studio host for First Take or College Basketball Live or the WNBA studio. Those things were just little carrots in front of me at all times. So I wasn't thinking of the big picture until the global pandemic shut everything down. And I had a chance to hear from young women and some young guys who watched me at ESPN and thanked me for being there so that they could see me and see success and what it looks like. I had no idea about the amount of impact I was having on Black and brown people until I left ESPN. It's just wild how things work. But again, that's something that I just put in my back pocket, and as I drive down the road in my career, I feel like I have a lot of Black and brown folks in the car with me, and I do it for us. What I really appreciated about Murrow was that it let me learn both sides of the camera. So that whatever job I was able to obtain in front of the camera, I knew exactly what was going on behind the camera.
And I wish students would embrace that and do that. I see so many people pursuing secondary degrees and masters and all that stuff, which is wonderful, but I just hope it helps them, like learning both sides. Everybody's job does, in my experience.
Woo! Gracious. Thanks to everybody who put that together. Anybody who knows me knows that I love this man. To my fellow inductees, Robert Dove and Roger Nias, it is an honor to be in your esteemed company. Dean Pickleton, thank you for nominating me to join this hallowed hall. It is wild to think that I graduated 27 years ago, and I'm entering the hall where Keith Jackson is omnipresent. Jackson provided the soundtrack for my sports fandom as a kid and was a huge reason why I chose to attend WSU. Everything I have achieved in my life in broadcasting is the direct result of this university. When I arrived on campus and told Glenn and Marvin Marcello that I wanted to talk about sports on TV, that I had the audacity to want to be one of a handful of sports anchors in the nation at the time, they said, "What can I do to help?" It was amazing. They helped me achieve my dream of following in Robin Roberts' footsteps at ESPN. One of my favorite Edward R. Murrow quotes is, "We must not confuse dissent with disloyalty." It's why I lean into protecting the Murrow College and WSU, and I only want for every student what I had, and that was to be put in the best position to succeed. As we celebrate Murrow and communicating with courage this symposium, I have to thank those that have fortified my courage and helped me blaze my own path. Glenn, you have always believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. And to this day, the mayor responds to my emails. He critiques clips that I send him. And when I call him up and say, "Hey, I'm broadcasting men's college basketball on FS1, will you tune in?" He tunes in and he sends me notes. Thank you. To our university president, Kirk Schultz, and the First Lady, Noel. Whenever I have dissented, you never questioned my loyalty. And most importantly, you listened. Thank you. To the women I looked up to, like Pam Oliver and Robin Roberts, my first see her, be her moments in sports broadcasting, thank you for paving the way. In my 13 years at ESPN, I was fortunate to work alongside Linda Cohn and Hannah Storm. Thank you both for showing me by example how to be a studio host and anchor at the very highest level. To the first woman who said, "Cindy, welcome to Arizona. Put on a headset and call a basketball game, even though you have never done that in your life." That woman was the former COO of the Phoenix Mercury, Amber Cox. That first game as a fill-in helped me find my voice and a reason to exist in the sports broadcasting universe after ESPN. I am forever grateful for that opportunity. There are a couple of women in particular with Pac-12 Network who have helped me hone my television play-by-play voice by simply being their incredible analyst self. My coach B, the always effervescent Joan Bombacini, and the incomparable Tammy Blackburn. At Pac-12 Network, I aspired to be like Kate Scott. She hustled with a gigantic heart, which is why it shouldn't surprise anyone that she is now the TV play-by-play for the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA. She has been a dear friend to me and has helped me navigate doing men's basketball play-by-play by simply being a trusted sounding board. I call Kate the carrot at the end of my stick, and I am grateful for her guidance. When Athletes Unlimited Pro Women's Basketball launched in 2022 and paired me with the Hall of Famer Cheryl Swoops, I thought I might pass out. Hand to God. I was like, what? What is happening? You have taught me so much about hoop, and I am truly grateful to get to work alongside the woman who still, to this day, 30 years after she played in the national championship game and won it for Texas Tech, holds the record for scoring the most points at 47. Take that, Caitlin Clark. Thank you, Ann Myers Drysdale, the first woman to receive a scholarship and play basketball at UCLA. The most consistent and enduring analyst voice in the WNBA and the NBA with the Phoenix Suns is my broadcast partner for the Phoenix Mercury. I am so grateful. To my dad, Reuben Brunson Jr., who took me to see the Sonics, the Seahawks, and the Mariners and fed my fandom, thank you. He is an OG girl dad. Side note, please, please, please bring back my Sonics. To my mom, Vicki Brunson, who died way too young, just as my TV career was taking off. Thank you for always telling my sister and I that we could be whatever we wanted to be, even President of the United States. And I really think she was pushing that president button. She wanted one of us to get there. Sorry, Mom. But for Vicki, her girls could do anything, and that mattered. To my husband, Steve Berthume, who couldn't be here today because right now he's getting ready to call first pitch for the Diamondbacks and Padres. He is the man I co-anchored my first SportsCenter with in early 2001. We got married 5 years later. And when he landed his dream job as the television play-by-play man for the Arizona Diamondbacks, we headed west in 2013. I literally had no idea what to do. I did not have a plan B. There was no ESPN studio in Phoenix. And Steve helped me pivot to play-by-play after Amber gave me that opportunity. Steve has watched more women's basketball, both college and professional, than any non-super fan should ever do. But he's done it to help me find my play-by-play voice. And for that, I am grateful. He is also my second biggest cheerleader. Finally, thank you to my day one. My sister, Kim Hardy, a wildly accomplished recruiter at Amazon, a senior recruiter, I should add, who always finds the time to tune in and watch my games or be in person. Kim has been my biggest cheerleader from my formative days. As a little girl, when I saw Joan Rivers hosting Johnny Carson, for those of you who don't know, Google. I used this little machine, again, Google, it was called a tape recorder, now we use our phones. But my sister literally volunteered to be all of my guests. And it was fantastic. We'd have our little show, we'd do our chat, I wanted to be a little funny, and because I realized that that's what I wanted to do, to interview, to storytell, that that's where my magic was, even, golly, I think it was 10, she helped me. And I was so confident in my abilities that I would listen back to the tape, like I was gonna send it to NBC or something, and I noticed that my sister sounded the same for both the male parts and the female ones. So I asked her, I was like, can you mix that up a little bit so it sounds different? She was 5 or 6 at the time. And her idea to do this was to bury her chin into her chest and kind of sound like Frankenstein. But she did it. She did it. We still laugh about it to this day. To my fellow inductees, and to those who preceded us in the Murrow Hall of Achievement, thank you for setting the bar so freaking high. It's an honor I'm benefiting from because folks like Margot Myers and the late Kathy Gertson left the ladder down and helped me ascend. It's what I aspire to do every single day, especially with the Murrow students and/or grads that I encounter along the way. Every rep truly is a step in this business, and ultimately, reps remove doubt. This incredibly humbling honor is helping my doubt dissipate. Thank you, and go Cougs!
Should mention to Cindy that I did get my PhD from Iowa, so Caitlin Clark was doing quite well until they met LSU. But I will tell you that women's basketball was far more exciting than men's basketball this last time around, I'll tell you. So I really enjoyed watching that. Well, what a pleasure it is to be able to introduce two former students. You can use some of the same adjectives along the way: hardworking, dedicated, focused. Robert, I won't use gorgeous, but that applies to somebody else, you know. So, but other than that, a lot of the same are there because they were definitely hardworking, had really strong work ethics. I had a privilege of serving with Robert with the Washington State Association of Broadcasters Board of Directors. The CEO and president is sitting right next to him, Keith Shipman, another former student. Keith has done a tremendous amount of work for the broadcasters in this state, and really appreciate all the work you've done. Also, serving on that board was also a great source of getting speakers for my management class when I was teaching here along the way. And so we had a number of guest speakers from that board of directors. Well, Robert came to WSU well-focused in being a sports anchor. And then he had some of the courses he took along the way. I think he did some of the sports around here. But he also had a chance to take my management class. And in the management class, and he had the TV news and the radio news class. And in the management class, I always would talk about, okay, here's what you get if you go out right away and work in the small markets, you know, in Boise or in Tri-Cities or whatever. It's almost minimum wage. And then I also mentioned, here's what you get in sales, and here's what you can make. And sales just is a straight line to management right after that. He obviously listened quite well about the management and the money because after leaving WSU, his first job was in Portland, major market in sales. And they recognized the talent that Robert had, and they moved him quickly into management. And again, he has skills in motivation, persuasion. He could hear no, but at the same time know that there's still potential to sell, and he could come back to them. Because we always would talk about how many times you're going to get no before you finally get that sales in. And Robert could handle that. Had great skills in that regard. Consolidation certainly hit radio and television like it's hit a lot of industry. And Robert's great skills just actually multiplied. So working in Portland market and management, from there they thought, well, what the heck, you might as well cover all of the Oregon market. Let's go down to Medford and Eugene and Corvallis and Portland and do all the other stuff. And certainly he did that, a major market. And then in 2016, the group he was working for said, well, you know, you've covered the entire state. You might as well do a few other things, like be responsible for Washington, Oregon, and Alaska. Before I came to WSU, I managed 2 radio stations in Sacramento, 20 miles apart, and I thought that was a challenge. He had 3 states. So he did a fantastic job. He was also honored as Broadcaster of the Year in Oregon. Obviously, it should have been Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. But as you'll see in the video, he did a tremendous job, and we're very proud of him. And thank you, Robert, for the great work you've done.
WSU experience. I didn't go there all 4 years. My freshman year, at Portland State, I got on the club tennis team, and obviously it wasn't a sanctioned sport at a school of that size. And I started helping out in the SID office and kind of got interested in broadcasting. And the SID said, well, if this is what you want to do, you really need to go to Washington State University. And I looked at him and I said, okay, I can go up to Seattle. And he goes, no, that's the UW. And I go, well, where's Washington State? And he pulls this map out and he points to the eastern side of the state. And I looked at him and I said, that's out in the middle of nowhere. He goes, yes, it is. So my parents literally, we loaded up in a car during spring break, drove up to Pullman, got home, and made the decision to transfer up there. And the following fall, I was up there going to school. Because of the type of program it is very fraternal. There are friends that I have to this day, 40 years almost after graduating, that I keep in touch with. The other part of it, I would just say the professionalism of the program. I mean, I was really blessed to have Glenn Johnson as both my advisor and my professor. He gave me the framework and set my foundation to have the career I ultimately had. He's an amazing mentor. But I would also say it was a two-way street with Glenn. If you wanted the mentorship, then you had to be willing to put in the work. And if you were willing to put in the work, he would give it back to you 100%. But, so you had to be accountable. And I think that was the biggest thing about him, that for the students who went to school and had him as their mentor, was you were prepared. People will ask me at times, you know, okay, now that you're done with your career, what are you most proud of? One would be in 2015, I was really proud of 1190 KDX. We actually were awarded the Service to America Award, or I should actually call it Service to Children Award. We have our own foundation where we provide eyeglasses and hearing aids for kids who can't afford the school. And that award sits in the front counter out in the lobby as you come in today. The second thing is I talk a lot about mentorship. And when I left, as I look forward and look back, one of the things I was most proud of, I look at the operations in Seattle and I look at the operations here in Portland. The people I put in place in the jobs are running it today. And so I kind of feel like my legacy carries forward. And I kind of feel like what Glenn did for me, I did for them. I had no idea. I mean, I actually was on the Murrow Advisory Board in the very late 90s to the early 2000s. They didn't have anything like this when I was on it. And, you know, as you're raising your family, you kind of get pulled away from the university more. And I hadn't even been on campus until 2017. My wife and I went up for the game when Cougs beat USC in that night game. I got a call asking me what my personal email was, so I gave it to him, and the next thing I know, I get an email from the dean telling me I'm being inducted, and I was in full shock. Had no idea. I ran 2 news talk stations in my career, and I would say the lessons I learned from Glenn when I was in college were put to use during that time. You know, knowing that I had a journalism background from college gave me some respect in the newsroom when I was dealing with the news director, the staff, that even though I didn't work professionally in that space, I understood it. I think sometimes when you're 19, 20 years old, you know, you're still trying to figure out the path in life. And sometimes you take for granted what's staring you in the face. And I would just say, make sure you take full advantage of it so that when you walk out of there, whether it's 4 years or 5 years, you're prepared, you have some direction of where you want to go, and you can actually look and say, you know what, I came here as an 18-year-old not knowing what I wanted to do, and I left today prepared for my future.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you. It's been great to be back on campus. This is the first time I've been on campus since 2017. Being from Portland and being born and raised down there, I was the first person in my family to go to school here and the last person in my family to go to school here. So obviously not a destination place to be, but it served me outstandingly well. It's hard for me, frankly, being up here again. I was talking to Keith, who's sitting down next to me, that this June it'll actually be 40 years since we graduated from college. And last night I actually made the drive coming up. I didn't fly. I drove up from Portland and had dinner with Dean Pinkleton and some of the other inductees and staff members. And after we got done, it was still daylight, so I just got in my car, drove around, just kind of took in the campus, and got out and kind of on a couple of places and just kind of walked around and kind of just breathed in the crisp air of what I remember of Pullman. But I have to tell you, once you come up here to go to school, it's in your blood. And no matter how long you've been gone, when you come back, it's all still there. And I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm happy to be getting this reward today, but I'm also disappointed a little bit that I kind of, when I got out of the car and got back to the hotel last night, I said, I need to start getting back up here more again. It just there's a vibe that sits on this campus. When I was here in 2017, as you saw in the video, my wife came up with me to go to the USC game. We were here that night to watch the Cougs beat Sam Darnold in USC, and we were up in the suite that night. And you probably saw in that picture Alex Brink, who was a school quarterback. Well, we knew him well because I spent 5 years living in Eugene. And my first year in Eugene, running our stations down there when I was running the stations down south that Glenn talked about, he was a senior at Sheldon. And the funny part was he wasn't even recruited by the University of Oregon. And yet when he graduated, obviously this was pre-Mike Leach days, he had every passing record in the school when he walked out of here. He still lives in Portland today. I still see him on occasion. When we would do the football recruiting dinners back in the day, originally at the Nike campus and then later at that Hilton over in Vancouver, he would show up at those. I have a Cougar helmet from back in the day that he's autographed, and a couple other quarterbacks have autographed that sit in my home office today as well. So my screen just went back. I'm sorry about that. But what I wanted to say too is I can't reiterate again how much I got out of Glenn and also Val Lindbergh. Unfortunately, Val passed away. He's been gone probably 10 years now, unfortunately, from cancer. But I can tell you unequivocally that if it wasn't for the two of them, what happened to me later in my career would not have happened. The guidance, the accountability that I learned specifically from Glenn, I can't overstate that. You took a class from Glenn. He ran his classes like a newsroom. And like I remember Broadcast Writing 365, we'd have to write scripts or whatever, and they would have to be turned in those days, we actually had typewriters still, and they had to be turned into a box. And that box was like outside of his office, and if it wasn't in there, that box was removed. I don't care how great the script was. You didn't make the deadline, you got an F. And so you learned very quickly. The other thing you learned very quickly is if you were doing a newscast on Cable 8, you better be ready, because if you weren't, the camera would come on and it would be dead, black screen, dead air, So you learned fast. And I think even though I ended up going down the other track in the business, those qualities still carry with you regardless, because on the business side, you have to be accountable as much as you do as on the journalistic side. I would also say, for those of you who are students still, latch into your classmates. There are classmates that you have that I guarantee that you trust, that you respect. Lean into those relationships. As I sit here 40 years later, whether it be Keith or Dennis Kelly, who's not here today. Those relationships have been there since day one, and they continue to be there. Keith started in TV, later came to own some radio stations. We would talk a lot when I was down in Eugene, because we were running smaller market stations, trading ideas and whatever. The thing I will tell you too, for those of you who are students, because this came up earlier, with one of the students, they said, God, I'm graduating and I don't know if I want to go to Spokane to get my start. I really want to go to Seattle or whatever. Here's the thing I'm going to tell you. When you get into the business, there's no difference between being in Spokane or Medford or Eugene versus being in Seattle or Portland. And the reason I say that is I worked in those markets. What you find, you have the same passion from the employee base that's there every day. You have the same challenges. The only difference is, frankly, is the operators. You got one less zero on the balance sheet. That's really what it comes down to. But what's the advantage of working in those environments is you learn a multitask skill set. And when you do go into the larger market and you're initially trying to prove yourself, you're the Swiss Army knife walking into the building. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, I didn't know you could do this. One of the examples I brought up last night was I came into sales when I got out of school because that's what I was told the management track was on. Well, very quickly, a guy named Jim Howe, who's passed away now, was the news director at 1190 KEX. He's like, you're a Washington State grad. I know you know how to rip wire. It's election night. You're coming in here to rip wire for the election results. And what was I in there doing? I was in there ripping wire. And I did it multiple times. Even as later in my career, I guess, as early sales manager before wires kind of went away. But I enjoyed it. It was kind of getting back into that space a little bit again, too. And frankly, it earned me that respect in the newsroom, which is important. The other thing I would say is, it's important to be a mentor. I talked about that in my video. I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of in my career is that I'm gone now, but my legacy carried forward. The people that I'm mentored are running those operations and doing those jobs now. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of time in the broadcast industry, and it can be cutthroat. And you can be there today, gone tomorrow. And truthfully, a lot of times when you leave, it's like there's a new, like I was a region president. Well, above me, there's still a CEO. And it's like, okay, does he like the people he's got? Is he going to make changes? And the thing I was probably most proud of was none of those changes occurred. That was like, no, these operations are in good shape. Nothing needs to be changed. And frankly, from my standpoint, of all the things I did in my career, I was probably the most proud of that was the mentorship and the legacy that I left behind, because those people have to carry it forward to the next people. And so I just would remind you as students, be willing to learn. I don't care how good you think you are. Coming out of school, there's always a few that think they kind of are ahead of the game, and you're going to find very quickly when you get into the newsroom, if you carry that attitude with you, you're going to get humbled very quickly because those people will put you in your place very fast. So be willing, I just say be willing to listen, be willing to learn. And then the last thing I do want to mention as well is, Cindy touched on this. When you decide to go into this industry, part of that is moving. And if you want to grow your career, you have to move. And, I can tell you from my experience, and I would say for all of you, I could not have done anything I did in my career without my wife. We had 3 kids. My oldest son, full disclosure, is actually on the autism spectrum, is considered high functioning. To this day, he's 34 and still lives at home with us. He can drive and work, but we're working on the independence thing. And when you're asked to move, you go now. In other words, it's like, well, my kids are in school. Can't we wait till the end of the school year? No, it doesn't work that way. You go now. And so what ends up happening is you move, and your wife's got to run that household, and everything from getting the kids fed, getting the laundry done, getting the house ready for sale, making sure it's in shape when you have to show it, all those things. And if you don't have a support partner like that when you're on this journey, there's no way I would ever have gotten to where I got in my career. So I just want to thank my wife, Marcy, who's not here today, but she was a huge part of my success. And lastly, I'd just like to thank all of you here for being here today, and the university itself. Thank you very much. It's a great place to go to school, and I'm honored. Thank you.
Right, many of you remember Professor Roberta Kelly. She was the hardest grader at Murrow College, and eventually her students loved her for it. Not right away, but eventually they loved her for it. I will tell you, when I travel and talk to a lot of folks about Murrow College, and they routinely express tremendous appreciation for the skills they learned under Roberta. Roberta, come up here and join me please today. She will be introducing our last inductee, Roger Nias, and I told her I'd stay up here with her to help her out a little bit.
Thank you, Dennis. All right. I need my specs here. So before we watch the video tribute to Roger, I thought it might be fun to take a little glimpse backward and to see where Roger's Murrow journey really began. Now, I've known Roger for just about 30 years, maybe a little bit longer, which tells you how long I've been around. So we first met when he began enrolling, or wanted to enroll, in what was then the beginning writing class. It was a news writing class. It was called Communications 225. And that was the predecessor to the Com 295, which is the media writing class now. Well, back in the 225 days, you had to pre-test into the class. You didn't just enroll in it. So you had to pass a writing test and a grammar test, and the competition was pretty keen. We had 200, 300 people a semester taking that test, and we had room for about 70 or 80 students. So Roger took the pre-test with a high school friend, Sherry Bowe, also a Murrow alum, and they both passed, and then they came to Murrow 218 to sign up for the class, because we hand-enrolled people back then. So Sherry, very excited to come and sign up and take whatever section she wanted to take. She's, in there, she's getting online, she knows what she wants to do. Roger's kind of hanging back a little bit, sweating major bullets. Now, Roger in his career, he is very, very good at crisis management, but that day I would tell you, Roger was all crisis and not much management. he was quite anxious about the class, and I'm sitting at that table waiting for him to sign up, and I'm thinking, oh boy, this child is going to die in this class. He's never going to make it. He's going to have a coronary on the first day. He was so anxiety-ridden. I mean, I was really worried about him. Well, Sherry, being Sherry, was just herding him up to the table, going, come on, go up there and sign up for the class. Don't worry about it. Finally, she just snapped at him. She said, just sign up for the same section I'm taking. You'll be fine. And Roger's not buying it, but he signed up for a section. And so our journey had begun. So one day in class, before class actually started, the kids were rolling in. We were talking about a TV series. Some of you may know it. It's called Twin Peaks. And it was a series crafted by David Lynch, kind of a quirky storyline. We all bought into it. We watched it religiously every week. And we were talking about the last show that had aired. And Roger, quick to seize the opportunity, said, oh, why don't we all come to your house on Friday night and watch Twin Peaks? And I'm like, okay. Yeah, so everybody came to my house on Friday night. Of course, he volunteered that they would bring dinner, which they did. And so we sat around and watched Twin Peaks. When I got to my office on Monday morning, I see Roger's on the floor taping a thank you note to my door. And I'm thinking, why are you on the floor taping a thank you note to my door? This was not a Hallmark card. This is not a little snippet of thanks a lot for Friday night. This was a 3-foot by 6-foot thank you collage that he had taped to my entire door, finishing taping on the bottom there. And it it really struck me then that this was a person who was not only thoughtful and kind, but somebody who immediately saw the advantage to thinking outside the box, to thinking big. And that's something that, of course, he has practiced throughout the years in his career, always thinking big for his clients to help them achieve their goals. Today, I think his legacy is shaping up to be the big thoughts that he has, the thinking outside the box that he does to help solve some of the greatest social issues of our times. You know, things that include global health, conservation, sustainability, LGBTQ issues, helping the Black community, helping the Chinook Nation specifically, helping people afflicted with AIDS. I mean, simply said, Roger, you make the world a better place. I mean, if that's not an achievement, then I don't know what is. And Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, and I quote, "To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded." And you most certainly have succeeded. You reflect the very best of the Murrow legacy. We're so very proud to have you as our alum. And it certainly warms my heart to know that we have remained in touch all these years. I certainly hope the Senate soon passes your ambassadorship so that when I talk about you to friends and brag on you to people, you know, I can always go back and say, hey, I knew him when. So congratulations, and I guess we will see the video on tribute now. Thank you.
You got it, all right.
Okay, thank you, sweetie.
Good job.
Washington, in a small fishing village on the Pacific coast. Growing up in rural America is, it's definitely different from growing up in a big city. I think growing up in rural America is, now I see it as a badge of honor. I think my values are really strong. I was raised by my mom and my grandma, both strong women who really instilled in me right and wrong and the power of communication and all the things that I carry with me today. But, when I first started college, I saw that growing up in a small town as a negative, and I no longer see that. I spent my first 2 years in college at the University of Washington, but quickly transferred to WSU because of the much better communications program. And so I knew early in my UW tenure that I was going to transfer to Pullman. That was a big change though, because I finally had my first big city experience, and I kind of liked it. And it was a big shock going back to a small town, and I am a gay man. I wasn't entirely out in Pullman. I started coming out in Seattle. I kind of went back into the closet in Pullman, and that was really rough. That was, a choice that I made, and looking back, I probably, didn't need to make it. Although my life would have been more challenging coming out in Pullman. So I think the cultural change was significant, but the education was so good. I had a wonderful communications instructor in Roberta Kelly, and she instilled in me some great skills that have served me well throughout my career. My experience with Murrow were really strong. I was a little terrified, to be honest, in my early communications coursework because it was really hard and it was very rigorous, and I learned the ABCs of writing, accuracy, brevity, clarity, which I continue to use in my career. I think that the Murrow legacy for me is all about integrity and standing up for what is right, standing up for the underdog, and really this relentless pursuit of the truth. And I think that is something that really resonated with me. And I think that going to the same school as Edward R. Murrow is something that I'm very proud of, and I'm always proud to say I'm a graduate of the Murrow College. I am in this incredible transition in my life, and it's very exciting. It's a little scary at times, but I am really thrilled. I was invited by President Biden to be his next U.S. ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, and which is an amazing privilege and honor. And if I'm confirmed by the Senate, then I would be moving to Barbados through the duration of his term. One thing that I carried with me from my childhood through college to this career today is just this idea of being bold and really kind of being, a superhero. Like, choose to be, that change you want to see in the world. And that is something that I embody, guided by on a daily basis. Go Cougs, be bold, be a superhero.
Well, thank you all. I dedicate this moment to strong, bold women, actually. As you could see in my video, 2 women raised me, my mom and my grandma, both Native American women, both strong, both who visited me in Pullman and loved me, and they are both gone. So I dedicate this to them. I was inspired, Cindy, by your remarks, and I want to congratulate Robert as well. Thank you, Dean Pinkleton, and thank you, President Schultz, for your support. I will admit I had to read the email from the dean twice because I wasn't quite sure if it was spam, I was looking for the click here $99 award, and sure enough, it was real, and I was incredibly honored. So thank you, and I want to have a shout out to my now dear friend, previously my terrifying professor, Roberta Kelly, who really did instill in me skills that I use every day. And I will say that my Murrow experience did change my life. I am here largely because of the education that I received at Murrow. And, I worked hard. I worked hard. I worked at the Evergreen. I did internships. I did all the things. I studied hard. And all of you are in the same boat. Hopefully you're studying hard, working hard. But it's like, I feel I was really blessed by the convergence of kind of guardian angels and luck and skill and all those things. And so I wanted to share with you just a few of my life lessons that really all started with my experience at Murrow. And I called them the 7 Bs, as in BE, to be, to exist. And interestingly, there are 7 countries that I would represent if I was confirmed by the Senate, so I figured 7 is a good number. So first of all, I would say be yourself. Don't try to be like someone else. Don't try to be, try to emulate someone that you're not. I mean, be yourself and find out who you really are. I mean, this is your opportunity to learn about yourself and what you like and what you're good at, and understand what you're good at. That will serve you really well. If you're a great writer, that will serve you well. If you're not a great writer, you can do better. But it doesn't mean you're going to be a professional writer for the rest of your career. I would say, as a young gay student, when I came to WSU, I chose to kind of hide that part of myself, and I didn't actually own the fact that I am a Native American. I don't look Native American. My dad is Norwegian. My mom and grandma clearly Native American. My great uncle was the chair of the Chinook Indian tribe, and the Chinook Indian tribe is the tribe that greeted Lewis and Clark on the Columbia River 200 years ago. So it's an incredible heritage, but I kind of hid those parts of me. So by owning those parts of yourself that make you unique, you will go far. I really do believe that. And know what your superhero, know who your superhero is, and know what your superpower is. Number 2, be connected. I learned that at WSU. Learn to save contacts, update your LinkedIn, make sure you're connecting with people, make sure that you meet the people at your table, introduce yourself to strangers. I drew a line from WSU just very quickly last night of the connections that led to this moment here. I got an internship with Alaska Airlines through my involvement in the PRSSA chapter, the J. Rocky chapter. I won a scholarship, the Sally Heat Scholarship, through WSU. That led to my first corporate job in Washington Mutual Bank. Washington Mutual led to Russell as a second company that I went to. Russell was my first client in my company when I started my consulting firm. That was a 30-year successful run for my consulting business. Through that, my second client after Russell was Craig McCaw. He was the founder of the kind of U.S. cellular industry. Through Craig McCaw, I met Nelson Mandela. I worked with Keiko the Killer Whale. I was the PR guy for Keiko the Killer Whale. Like, how cool is that? And those all, I can direct line back to WSU. So build those networks, nurture them, and they're your own. You own those forever. So make sure you invest in that. Number 3, be involved. Coursework is not enough. You can have straight A's. No one cares. Like, you have to have practical experience. So work at the Evergreen, work at Cable 8, do internships, do unpaid internships. I know, shocking. I mean, most of the internships when I was doing internships were not paid. At my company, we were paying $15 an hour up until recently when I sold the company. But I would say take the experience, because when you come to work at a company, the first thing we ask is, oh, great, I like your resume, looks great. You know, I don't care about your grades. What are your internships? What other internships have you done? Oh, here, I got a 4.0. Okay, but you haven't done an internship. So make sure that you get involved. And that also is in doing boards. Get involved in boards. Get involved in, whether it's, your sorority or fraternity. If you're on the PR committee or the chair of the PR committee, that's great. That's practical. But show some results. Show some examples of your work. And, I was interested in politics, so I got involved in politics. Well, fast forward, strange things happen. And I, from getting involved in hosting events at my home for many, many years, I had the privilege to host then Vice President Biden at my home in 2019. And fast forward, I am a nominee to be a U.S. ambassador, which is amazing. Number 4, so number 3, be involved. Number 4, be generous. Be generous with your time, your talents, your fortune. Many of you probably don't have a lot of money to give away right now, but you will someday, hopefully, and give it generously. You can't take it with you. And so right out of school, you can volunteer your time and your talents and engagement. I came from a very solidly middle-class family where we didn't donate money to anything. Like, I don't remember, maybe a couple dollars in the church basket. That might have been the extent of it. But as you develop your career, know that giving back, being engaged with the Murrow College is incredible. And you can be a change maker. Doesn't matter your background. And I think that's what my experience at WSU showed. Number 5, be clear about what you want. If you're not clear about what you want, no one can help you. If you want to be the best, sports broadcaster, you're clear. And you want a break. You're clear. People will help you. But if you say, I don't know, I'm really good. I like communications. We have this a lot when I was hiring. Well, what do you want to do? Oh, I'm a communicator. Okay, so what do you want to communicate? The more clarity you have about what you want, opportunities will present themselves to you. Number 6, be patient. This is the one that I am terrible at, I will admit. I am the least patient person probably in this room. I like we're doers. We like doing things and getting things done. And so being asked to wait and to sit and to ponder and to clean out my attic like I'm doing right now. Those are hard things for busy people. But sometimes being patient actually creates really interesting outcomes. So I would say learning to be patient is really a message to me, and hopefully to some of you. And then last, I would say be grateful. Be grateful for the opportunities you have. Thank people. You would be shocked how many times I've engaged with students or clients or others, and there's just no sense of gratitude. and you remember those things. And I think that in our industry, in the broader communications industry, it's really small. Like, you'll be shocked. You'll go to a city and you're like, oh, I know so-and-so, they went to Murrow and they know Glenn and they know, it's like, it's a very small community. And so people remember how, when you leave an organization, this is one of the best pieces of advice I was given. People remember how you leave an organization. They don't remember all the good works that you did, but they do remember how you left. And if you leave in a huff and you leave in a big, that's what people remember. And I think, so being grateful, being humble, you can still, not all of the successful communicators are that humble, but you can be grateful. So I just want to wrap up and say thank you for this incredible honor. I did read it twice, read the email twice to make sure it wasn't spam, and I'm really grateful it wasn't spam, and I'm really grateful to be here with all of you, and go Cougs.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. Very, very quickly, please join me once again in congratulating Roger, Robert, and Cindy. Very good. Very good. I appreciate that. Also, there was one group I've saved until now to recognize. Will Murrow College faculty and staff please stand quickly so we can recognize you? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When people talk to me about the college and how terrific the college is, they don't talk about our resources or our facilities or those kinds of things. They talk to me about our faculty and staff consistently every day. So I appreciate very much the great work that you do. Thank you. This is the end of our Hall of Achievement and Celebration of Excellence luncheon. However, it's not even close to the end of the symposium. We have panels taking place all afternoon, and in this very room tonight, we're going to have our Lifetime Achievement Awards ceremony featuring Dean McKay. Dean's over here to my right. Dean, wave your hand for us. Been outstanding. Had literally a standing room only conversation with Lisa Wannanen Jones earlier today. It was really terrific what I heard. So appreciate it, excited about it. Take care and go Cougs.